We've built the bucks a new home, but now they're fighting over who's going to be the king. Hi guys, Sarah and Shane here from Windella TV. So we've built the bucks a new home, and today we're going to tell you how we did it, why we did it, and what was wrong with it in the first place. Goats come into season as the days start getting shorter, January, February in the southern hemisphere, as summer's coming to an end. That's when we join our bucks with the does, but outside of that time frame, we don't want the does getting in with the buck.
This is a pretty typical fence that we have on our farm here. It's about 1.1 metres high. The two top wires are hot wires. That means it's throwing a pulse of electricity through it. It's not hot all the time, not like an electric fence, but it's an energised fence. So the top two are hot, then we've got ring lock, or hinge joint I should say, through the rest of the fence, and then we've got an offset, that other wire that you may be able to see down the bottom there. It's on the other side of the fence where the goats are, and what that does is stops them going under the fence. That gives them a zap, gets them away from the fence, and that's how fencing on this whole farm is set up.
So we put the bucks in with the does for about 2 or 3 months while they're joining, but outside of that time of year we don't want them in together, otherwise we have kids at all different times of the year. It's a massive pain in the butt. We've also got young ones that are too little to join, so it's important that we've got a good separation and a great boundary between the bucks and the does when it's not time for babies. If you're considering doing anything with goats, it's important that you appreciate one factor, and that's just how stinky your buck goats are going to be. A buck goat stench is really pungent. It's this musky aroma that comes from a mile away. So when we're handling them, we have to wear gloves, otherwise you're going to stink of buck goat for the rest of the day. The does, on the other hand, they're delightful. They love a cuddle, and we love to give them lots of attention. Pop quiz, what makes a buck goat stink? Comment below if you think you know the answer.
So this is where the bucks were originally. This is what we built ourselves. And what I worked out after I built all this fencing is that as a rural fencer, I make a pretty bloody good photographer. There's got a few things wrong with this. One, it gets a bit of water in the winter and the bucks don't really want the spa and so forth. Two is that the house is right there. And you may recall Sarah talking about how much these bloody things smell. This is the very, very first fence that we ever built on our farm, and it took me, I think, 2 days. Any fencer that knows what they're doing would look at this and just shake their head in shame. It's just bloody terrible.
Our farm's only 13.5 acres, so we want to maximise the space as efficiently as possible. We worked out that this corner block down here, which wasn't really being used, would be the perfect way to create a separation between the bucks and the does. So we've fenced it off and it's working really well. Our bucks are pretty good. They don't generally try and get out, and they're fully grown. They're a big size. They're not going to fit through tiny gaps like the little goats. So we didn't go with ring lock and hinge joint for this fence. It would have been overkill. Plus, we've actually got 3 lines of defence here with our setup. We've got the existing fence where the does are paddocked. We've got a big salt drain separating the two, and then we've got the fence for the buck paddock. So it's not just one fence separating 2 lots of animals. Unlike the old buckyard, which we did way back when, we didn't know what we were doing, it was very manual. This was a much bigger fence and we did it the right way. We had the tractor and the post rammer to drive the posts in. We did 6 strands of wire with the fence droppers every 2-3 metres, and we've got a hot offset wire on the inside of the fence to keep the bucks off the fence. We could add a hot top wire, but at this stage I don't think we need it. So this fence was built pretty much in a day. We went out and collected all the posts, came down here, paced out the distance and laid the posts out where they were going to go, then used the tractor and the post hole rammer to ram them all in. We put the stays in, that's what this here is, and that's what the gate hangs off. It also stops the whole fence from pulling over as you tighten the wires. Now with goats, you want to make sure that your stays are horizontal, not on an angle, because goats are pretty agile and they'll climb up and jump over and they'll be gone in a second. Once all the posts were in, we had to drill holes to run the wire through, about 72 holes, 6 through every one of these poles. Then we ran the wire through, tied it off, then we put the droppers in. These are droppers, they go on pretty easily, just with your hands and a screwdriver. Then we put the offset hot wire on. We just did the one, didn't worry about the top wire. It's the boys, they're well behaved, no problems. And these are our two bucks. On the left we've got Hakuba and on the right we've got ramen. In case you didn't work it out, we kind of like Japan and the food. If you notice, they've got really long beards and they're kind of yellowish off colour. That's a clue as to why they stink so bad. So you can see the bucks get along really well together. Even though they play really rough, for the most part, that's just how they play. They've got really hard heads and they love to get in there and get a bit rough. Sometimes it's one asserting dominance over the other, but these two have lived together for years now and they get along really well. So these are some of the does that are due to kid in the next couple of weeks. The bucks have done their work. Everyone's where they need to be. We use the milk in our goat's milk soaps and so forth. If you'd like to learn more about that, make sure you click the link to subscribe.